Last week, I used the F word in a story about the Tesla Buffalo factory.
You did.
I'm sorry?
Said you did. We were there.
I did. And that F word was fraud. I said it was an outright fraud. And I want to reinforce that today, this week. So, Tesla fans, take a drink. David Robinson of the Buffalo News published a story today about the Riverbend Tesla factory. Just again, to keep in mind, the state of New York is into this factory. And by into it, I mean the state of New York paid almost $1 billion, over $950 million for the factory and the equipment so that Tesla could come in and fulfill the terms of the contract and start a business and hire people for a certain kind of job and all of this. And since then, Tesla has done none of that. Now, we can argue, and everybody else will get a chance, of course, to rebut what I have to say. But in my opinion, none of this has happened. And the reporting in the Buffalo News seems to back that up. This week, they announced that Tesla had moved about $50 million worth of manufacturing equipment that had not previously been used. This was equipment purchased by the state of New York that Tesla never used. It was in the way. They moved it to a warehouse in near Niagara Falls. Now the state of New York is possibly going to sell it or auction off that equipment to try and recoup some of their investment. The other interesting thing in the story is that it does explain that Panasonic's pulling out, as we mentioned last week, of the factory, and that will result in the loss of 380 jobs. Tesla said it may hire some of the workers as temps. And that would be less than the Tesla wage, and Tesla would be under no commitment to keep them for any length of time. In other words, once the $41.2 million potential fine from the state of New York would have to be levied in April, once that passes, then they can fire everybody and go back to doing nothing in an empty building that they didn't pay for. That, ladies and gentlemen, is fraud, and it's horrible because, as we've all said, and as I've said on this show, solar is super important. Other companies are making money with it. You can make money with it. You just have to do it. And that's not something that Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, has shown much interest in, other than, of course, bailing out him and his cousins. That's it.
So this facility that they acquired when they acquired Solar City, didn't it also used to fail at making solar panels for
Solyndra?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so that is relevant because...
So was the equipment ordered for Solar City or for Tesla? Yes. All right, now, so is this a case of they were a victim of the build fast and break shit, or...
I'm sorry, Tesla was a victim?
No. The fact that there was waste. You know how, like, these other industries do, like the... with the rockets, hey, we're going to build it out of carbon fiber. Throw that all away. We're going to make it out of steel. Is it like that?
Well, these things had never been used.
Right.
I mean, it says in here a couple of times it had never been used.
Right, but they are the Muskeco's are want to turn on a dime, and it does take a little bit of lead time to get industrial equipment ordered, delivered, and installed. So, did they pivot before it just arrived, or?
Yeah, if the state of New York bought it and said, here's a bunch of equipment, and Tesla says, you know what, we don't need this equipment. Why don't you take it back?
Yeah.
Cancel the order, give it back, or do something. And I'm not going as far as Russell. I'm not saying fraud. I'm saying I know Russell's going there, but I mean, we know they had to pay to warehouse it.
Yeah.
Why pay to warehouse it?
That seems like a waste. An additional waste.
Yes, exactly.
Well, maybe they wanted to make the state think they were using that equipment to do something.
Why would they want to do that, Paul?
If they wanted to make the state think they were doing it, they would have left it where it was.
Right.
because according to Russell, they're doing nothing at all. So why would it matter if it sits where it was sitting? They're not doing anything according to Russell, so you may as well just leave it there.
What are they doing?
So with Panasonic pulling out, will they have a use for this again, or is it still just not their process?
No, the state wants to sell it.
But if they put it in use before it's sold.
No, well,
It's gone. It's done.
I'm sorry. If you're warehousing something for years, since what was it 2014, 2015? It says they bought the equipment, and the state says, okay, we're going to sell it now, and you suddenly say, well, wait a minute, I'm using that.
This isn't rocket science. This isn't research and development. Tesla had a proposal to get this money from the state of New York. They wanted this factory to do something very specific. They had a product or products they were going to make. The state of New York bought the factory, upgraded it, bought the equipment, and suddenly Tesla didn't want to make that equipment.
And the reason is that Tesla rushed out with a product that didn't work. And that's
three tries
the
to get
things.
where we are today.
Things have changed on the solar tile roof. They said they had a product that worked. It doesn't work. They couldn't make it work. They've gone through 2 previous iterations. They say they now have a 3rd one that does work.
And
in that process,
and they thought they could fix it in software. The next version.
In that process, they lost 2 years worth of time, and they had to lay off a ton of workers, and they didn't have, it was a cluster, and it continues to be a cluster. But I believe that they're trying to move forward with the setbacks they've had.
Yeah.
Now, if the state of New York had signed an agreement with Tesla that said you're going to hire X amount of workers, you're going to pay X amount of wages, okay, there's a contract. So guess what? Tesla has to abide by the contract. If they don't, then they get sued. So okay, they know that. So that's the agreement. That's the way business is supposed to be run. Let the chips fall where they may. That's it.
So does Tesla have 1,200 janitors now pushing brooms around the factory?
Who cares what they're doing?
Well,
As
that is
long as
true.
they're abiding by the contract, that's all they have to do according to the state of New York.
If you have a number of people earning a certain amount,
Other than avoiding the fee, I can't imagine that they would want this thing to fail. It looks like they're trying, and it appears that the solar roofs solar glass is coming out to more non-employees, but we'll see what happens.
More non-employees.
I mean, we like, we said, we say this every time. We want solar to succeed. We want batteries to succeed. We want EVs to succeed. We want everything to succeed.
This really could have been avoided if Tesla Home Energy was an honest company, and it's not. And it hasn't been run that way. And that's the part that's frustrating. If they'd have just made solar panels and power walls, I would have nothing to say except, yeah, that's so awesome. And if they were struggling doing that, but they're not.